It's Monday, December 11th, 2023. Let's talk about the news. From Space News, Chinese startup launches third methane rocket. A Chinese space startup called Landscape has successfully deposited a trio of satellites in orbit using a methane-liquid oxygen or methalox-fueled rocket. The third time it has attempted such a launch, the second time it's done so successfully, and the first time it has then deployed satellites in orbit. This is notable because these Juga 2 rockets are meant to eventually be reusable up to 20 times apiece, which could grant China's space program some of the economic benefits the rest of the world currently enjoys due to SpaceX's renewable offerings. It's also notable because of that methalox fueling setup, which could allow the company to transition to a full-flow staged-combustion-cycle engine by 2028, which in turn could allow it to launch rockets that are of a kind with SpaceX's currently in testing Starship, which some analysts expect to revolutionize the space launch industry because of how much mass it will allow the company to haul into space with each launch. From Al Jazeera, Guatemala prosecutors threaten to annul victory of President-elect Arevalo. The Supreme Electoral Tribunal of Guatemala has announced that President-elect Bernardo Arevalo's recent victory is, quote, unalterable, end quote, following suggestions by public prosecutors that they were considering annulling the election's results. The General Secretariat of the Organization of American States has called these prosecutors' statements about annulling the vote an attempted coup d'etat, and these prosecutors have previously been accused of self-serving, undemocratic actions by internal and external agencies, governments, and watchdog groups. The prosecutors said that Arevalo improperly gathered signatures for his campaign and mishandled campaign funds, and should thus be stripped of his political immunity so he can face legal justice. And that then snowballed into the prospect of doing away with the results of the vote entirely. There was a fair bit of public backlash against this threat, and the aforementioned Supreme Electoral Tribunal has said that the president-elect will step into office as planned, but there's enough history of corruption by public officials in the country that this has raised both hackles and concerns in Guatemala and throughout the region. And from the Associated Press, State Department approves sale of tank ammunition to Israel in a deal that bypasses Congress. The U.S. government announced over the weekend that it has approved an emergency sale of not quite 14,000 rounds of tank ammunition worth more than $106 million to Israel. This approach allowed the Biden administration to bypass Congress and speed up the sale and delivery of this ammunition, which in turn bypasses some of the tricky questions being raised in Congress about potential humanitarian strings that might be attached to any additional support provided to Israel as it continues its invasion of the Gaza Strip in pursuit of Hamas militants, creating a severe humanitarian crisis for Palestinians in the region as a consequence. If you're finding some value in One Sentence News, consider leaving a quick review wherever you get your podcasts and/or sharing the show with a friend. You can find out more about this show or subscribe to the email version at onesentencenews.com. And you can support this and other related projects, like the Let's Know Things and Brain Lenses podcasts at understandery.com.